Hello, welcome to Derek Teaches SAS Programming Lesson 4, using embedded data in the program. Glad you could join us today. So today what we're going to learn is, last time we learned about importing data from a CSV file via a link through a folder. This time we're going to work with data by directly putting it and pasting it into our program window. Let's get to it. Okay, just warming up the PowerPoint here. So this lesson could actually save your career. And why is that? Well, imagine that you have SAS and you've got all these connections to data via your some sort of Oracle server, different URLs or TCP/IP, and none of them work. And what you need to do is, you've got a short deadline, as I'm describing here. See, as a data analyst or a business intelligence professional, you will experience times where you must deliver in a short amount of time, but you can't connect to the raw data. Or in order to connect to the raw data, you've got to call IT, and they tell you that it takes a week, or it takes a certain amount of money to connect with the data, and you don't have time. But you are able to see some raw numbers. Maybe someone has emailed something to you, or maybe you have the data on like a memory stick. So what are you going to do? It's not like you can't always save it onto a folder or something. And you're looking for something, you want to deliver something quickly. So the easiest thing to do is actually paste the data directly into your program window, rather than develop an input command and having to debug that input command to a folder. So this whole lesson is dedicated to commands, the two commands data and data lines. You're going to use a combination of these commands in order to use data that's directly pasted into your program window. Let's talk about a situation. I mean, there's so many different situations where you'll have to use this. And speaking for someone who has about 5 years experience, I've had to do this quite often. I admit that it's not a permanent solution, but you'll be using this. If you are a data analyst professional, you'll be using this. So imagine you're working for a small airline, and you've got 15 passengers that are stranded in the Bahamas because the company's computer network is down all across the Caribbean. Every vice president, senior manager, they want to know how much money is going to be lost and how much money is going to be sent to each of these customers for a refund. And your boss has put you in charge of reporting that. So your boss wants you to construct and set up a list of the stranded customers in SAS. He wants you to put the data in SAS so that's ready and available for everyone to use. You can't access the data directly because, again, as the situation is described, the computers are down in the Caribbean. What's happened is that the staff of the Caribbean, they FedExed you or given you an envelope with the data on a memory stick, and you've got to take that data and paste it in. So we're going to take this time and introduce you to Notepad++. So you're going to very quickly massage the data in Notepad++ in order to get it ready to be used in your program window. You could paste it into your program window directly and then use SAS to edit the text file, but that's not what SAS is for. So Notepad++ we'll do that more quickly. So let's examine the data file of our airline example. Close this now. I have 3 data files that we're going to be looking at today, but for this first example, we're going to look at the refund list. If I double click it, CSV files automatically open Excel. That's what it looks like. But what we want to do is we want to look at this file directly in Notepad++. So, make sure I save it here. And did I open it? Here it is. Refund list. This is an interesting file that they sent us. It has it's got commas and spaces. So whether or not we use SAS or some other database tool, this file might look a bit funny, because whatever tool we're going to use, it might try and separate the fields using a space or a comma. We're not really sure. And in order to use the data and data lines command quickly, it's going to separate the data by means of a space. And in these commands, there are options to use commas as the default separator, as the key separator, but the default separator is a space. What we can do is very quickly use Notepad++ to first delete the spaces, or get rid of the spaces inside the single data elements. Like this column name has 2 spaces in it. This name, Carl DeSanto, has a space in it. We can change that to an underscore. So I'm going to hold down Control F, and immediately the find window comes up. You can see in this find window there are different options, different tabs. I'm going to hit the replace and change the space to an underscore. And then I'm going to move the cursor in the file to the beginning and hit find to see if I find the first space. And there it is. And then I can hit replace. You can see that the space is changed to an underscore. Hit replace all. You can see all the spaces are now gone. There isn't any spaces. There are carriage returns, but there's no spaces in all the file and all the data in all the file. Then we want to get rid of the commas. Substitute the commas for spaces. I'm going to press comma here in the find, and I'm going to replace the underscore with a single space. Set the cursor back to the start, find the first one, and hit replace to test the first one. The comma has been replaced by a space. Replace all. And that's it. Now this file is ready to be used using the data and data lines commands in SAS. So let's review what we just did. Presentation. Introduction to Notepad++. We just examined the file Notepad++. Data elements are separated by commas, and the first line contains headers. So we edited the file. What we did is replaced all the spaces with data in the data elements with underscore characters, and then we replaced all the commas with single spaces. And the spaces represent the separations between the data elements. It's data and data lines commands. So we're going to build a SAS program that has 4 parts. 4 key pieces to this data lines combination of commands. The first command we're going to use is called the data command, and it indicates the name and the location of the output. We want this data located in SAS to be the name of a table. So after the data command, we state the table name. So once the transfer is complete, this command is also a container for the other 3 commands. Length. So we're going to use the length command setting for setting the character lengths of each of the fields in SAS so that we avoid cutting off any of the data elements that we're trying to import. Input indicates to SAS the data fields that need to be converted from the raw data to the SAS destination, i.e. the SAS table. And then data lines is where you paste in the raw data. Let's start transferring our data. We're just going to keep this open for now. And then what am I going to do? That's another editor. We don't need this actually. We're only going to use Notepad++. But what we are going to do, sorry about that. I'm just going to open up my notes on another screen while I show you what we're going to do. Just bear with me here. There. All right. New project. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Welcome to the show. Here's SAS, ladies and gentlemen. Click on New and then click on Program. And now we've started a program window. Just hit a space for good measure in case you want to add anything before the program, like a comment. But we'll get right into it. The first command we talked about is the data. So data space. We want the table located in a folder. The default folder for anything that is made in the program or by the programmer is work. So we're going to stick to that. We're going to start with the work folder and put a period. And then we're going to, what are we doing? We're doing refunds, right? So let's call it cust underscore, let's keep it all lowercase, cust underscore refunds. And then we're going to close with a semicolon. And that's the first piece. So data, we identify the name of the data table that we want to use. And then data is the container for the other three commands. And once you press enter, we're just going to hit shift, because after we type data in the name of the table, SAS is waiting for the other subcommands, which we said before we're going to use three. We're going to use length, input, and then the data lines. All right, so length, we need to figure out what the fields are and what data types they are, and then what length to set them at. So if you look at our data file again, that's why I kept Notepad++ so we can refer to it. You notice the first line is very useful, because the first line actually tells us what the names of the columns are. We could, instead of typing each one, we can cheat a little and just copy and paste all of the headings here and put it right after the length command. Boop, just like this. Then we can go back and look at the data file and decide what data types are there that exist. So there are 5 fields. There's a sequence number, a first name, a last name, and the first number is the refund amount, and the second number is the total business cost. It's the cost of the business for refunding the customer, because besides giving the money to the customer, we're probably going to send the customer, set them up in a hotel, or there might be administrative costs that add to a higher amount than just the money that's given back to the customer. So that's why we have those 2 numbers there. So the first, even though the first column it looks like a number, it's a sequence, like an index. So this is going to be, we're going to see, even though these are numbers, we're going to set these as characters. We know the first name is going to be, there's all characters there. Last name is a character. And then the two dollar values are going to be numbers. So to identify, separate the definition between characters and numbers, fields that are characters end in a string. So we put a dollar sign to represent the string. After the sequence, first name, last name, and then going to put carriage return here, because I'm not putting a semicolon after length here at the end of first name dollar sign. SAS knows to look at the rest of the command. I'm just going to shorten this folder window here so we can see more of it. So first name, last name. To identify that refund amount is a number sign, we just don't put a dollar sign there. And then total business costs, we don't put a dollar sign there. So you've identified which columns are strings and which or I should say characters and which are numbers. Now we have to actually put the length of the field. So if I drag back Notepad++, and then I look at the different data fields, sequence has at least 2 characters. So I can put the number 2 here, and then just a space. And then I'm going to look at the other data. So first and last names, a name could be any sort of length. So let's set the length for each, the first and last name, to 15. Just going to put a space after the dollar sign, put 15, a space after last name, and put 15. Actually, let's just put 20, just in case, for last name. Refund amount, sometimes they're 4 and sometimes they're 3. And same with total business cost. So the largest is 4. Let's set the field size to 5 and 5. And then once we finish that, semicolon to close off the command, and we're done identifying the length of each column. We have to tell SAS now to input these 5 fields and to specify all 5. So I'm going to put the word input space. We can go back to our refund list, copy and paste the names of the columns again, and put them back here after input now. So we want to input all of these. It's still a good habit or a good measure. You actually don't need to put, SAS is really smart, and it can identify the differences between characters and numbers on its own, but it's always good measure to specify them yourself in your program in the input command in this example. So these first 3 columns are characters, and then these are dollar amounts, so I just leave those. And then I put a semicolon again. That's our input command. So 3 out of 4 of the command pieces we've covered so far, and the last thing we need to do is put the data lines command. So I'm going to actually return the cursor all the way to the end and put the command data lines, even though it is the container after data. It data lines there. But even after the word data lines, we put a semicolon, and then we paste again the data. There are different options that we can put after data lines, but I'm not going to cover them in too much detail. Instead, I've pre-ordered organized and pre-edited the data, the raw data in Notepad, which is why I'm using Notepad++, to the way that is easily acceptable to the data lines command. No commas, no spaces inside the data. All the spaces within the data elements have underscores. So within a single name, there's no spaces, but the spaces identify the separation of the different data elements. So this data, I'm going to copy it and paste it without the headings and paste it directly into data lines under the word data lines. Press enter and colon. There you have it. 4 pieces of the program, and this program is ready to run. Let's see if we get any errors. We shouldn't really. A very simple program. And once we run it, the output tab will appear next to the program, and it'll show us the output of our the results of importing data directly. Ta-da. Success. That's how you do it, boys and girls. This is just so in fact, it might be a little trick to actually keep this program saved in a personal folder when you're at work and you're doing a project, so you can easily reference it. And you're on a project, have a short deadline, slap this in, do some rough alterations, changes to the command names, then just paste your data. Your boss wants you to do a trend or regression or something that requires you want to focus your time on the hardcore math and not have to worry about uploading the data. So I have 2 more examples of this this data lines combination of commands. And the raw files that I have, you're going to need for at least the next 3 lessons, where I start teaching you guys SQL, because SAS uses SQL in order to do analysis and merge tables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the data using the data lines commands in front of you while you watch, but the steps are actually pretty much the same. So why don't I put on some music? You can watch me go at it, because I'm not going to do a lot of explanations. This is so easy that I'm just going to go through it. You can follow along. I'll give you some hints about what I'm doing, but not a lot of instructions. So I'm going to delete this. All my data here. And for now I'm going to leave... actually, no, I'm going to delete these. I'm going to keep the command words that I'm going to use. And there's 2 kinds of data that I'm going to use. In the next set of lessons, you're going to pretend that you are working for a talent agency. So I have a list of music artists and music shows, and we're going to take the data and import both of those. So we're going to import 2 kinds of data. One for artists, and then one for shows. And that's it. I'm just gonna put shows. Now I'm gonna go through this really quickly. there are actually more edits than the previous example. And this is the beauty about using Notepad++, that you can easily tackle any sort of strange editing, massaging of the data that you need to do. So you have to remove these triple colons, triple colon weird things. Place all. I'm gonna go back to find, see if I have any more spaces. That's it, replace all the commas, spaces. Okay, so my file is now ready for using into the SAS program. So I'm going to open SAS. Program I had open, and in Artist I'm going to start pasting in the headings. I don't need this anymore right now. So what I've done so far is I've put in all my column names and length. I haven't stated the numbers, the number of characters I want each field to be just yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little, and I am going to paste these columns without the numbers right here on input. And then I'm going to go back and state the number of columns in each of the length. So just for the sake of consistency, I'm getting rid of all these dollar signs. So I'm now ready to paste all my data to be uploaded in the table that's going to be named artists. And now I'm done creating the program that'll upload the data for the table artists. Now I'm going to start working on shows.
With Managed WordPress, you can easily link to your brand's social channels. It's a beauty.
I'm just determining which fields are characters and which are numbers. So before I put in the number of characters and the length, I'm gonna copy all the fields, put them here in input, and paste them. I've finished the program. I've got two sets of data lines commands, each for a different table. One table is called artists and one is called shows. Just going to turn down the music here. So what I have is, I hope you can all hear me. Turn up the volume here. What I have is basically pasted the data in for the two tables. One is artists and one is shows. And I've also completed all the other parts of the program, the length and the input. So all I need to do is run the program. Let's see if it gives us a success, and if not, we'll edit and take care of the errors and the bugs together. Let's hit save here. Hit yes till we want to save over the information. And it looks like we have success. It doesn't look like any of the data is cut off. And open the columns here. We have a strange underscore here. We can always go back. Once we start learning SQL, it looks like some of the data is a bit cut off, but we're going to use it as is, because what's cut off is just the venue name. It looks like the venue name is actually quite long in the shows table. We can use this drop down tab to select the different tables. So I'm going to go to the artist table. This one looks a little bit better. Nothing is cut off here at all. Oops. Everything looks good in this table. We cut off the we accidentally cut off the names, the venue or auditorium names in the venue field, in the venue name. That's okay, we're going to leave it for now. And we can try this again or fix the mistakes when we go to lesson 5. But otherwise you have a really good idea about how to do uploads by pasting the data directly into your program. Like I said, this will save you so much problems and so much effort, especially when you have short deadlines. So you can make that report, and after you release the report, then you can work on automating your data feeds and make them better rather than pasting the data each time into your program. And that is that's lesson 4. Stay tuned for lesson 5.